Welcome to Inside Marketing with Market Surge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at Market Surge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with Market Surge, where influence meets impact. I'm your host, Reed Hansen, and today's guest is Ashley Dibiase, founder and CEO of Dash of Social. Ashley launched her agency as a college student and scaled it into an integrated marketing partner, helping small businesses, nonprofits, and tech startups stand out without adding workload. From social media management and content creation to strategy and email, she lives by one core belief: marketing should make you visible, not overwhelmed. A TEDx speaker, 40 under 40 honoree, and founder of the Massachusetts Business Network, Ashley turns values-driven communication into measurable growth. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Reed, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I know you've had your own agency for a while. You founded Dash of Social in college, is that right? And has turned it into a full service agency. So what kept you going? You know, how have you added your special spin to keep Dash of Social growing steadily?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you mentioned, I started my company in 2016. In just about a few weeks as of the time of this recording, it'll be our 9th year in business, which is crazy to think about. It feels like 2016 was just a few years ago, not 9 years ago.
Right.
But it has been so much fun to build up the company since then. I've always been very entrepreneurial minded, really interested in writing. And I feel like since marketing is probably 95% writing, or at least it feels that way, it felt natural to just follow that as a career. I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but didn't think it happened so young at the age of 19, but here I am. I feel like what happened for me with just the growth and being able to keep things going was that COVID happened actually a year after I graduated. I graduated in 2019, told myself I graduated, I wasn't going to work for anyone else. I was only going to work for myself, and that's what I did. And so a year after that is when the pandemic began, which actually ended up being a good opportunity for me, because that's when all these companies who had no online presence at all suddenly needed to be online very quickly. And so it was really gratifying to be able to support them during such a stressful and overwhelming time and help them continue moving forward. And so that's something that really contributed to growth. And then also, I will say, just great partnerships. I mean, I've built a lot of good partnerships with PR firms, web designers, paid ads consultants, anyone who offers complementary services and works with similar clientele to me has just been a really great way to help to expand my reach and get really great referrals moving forward.
That's awesome. And speaking of your reach, as I mentioned in the intro, you've been a TEDx speaker. You've been honored as a 40 under 40 honoree, and obviously you have a great personal brand. Do you feel like your personal brand has helped your own agency's authority? Does that help in, say, sales conversations or just overall promotion of your business?
Yeah, I love that question. And I fully believe it does. And I am a big advocate for anyone in business to be able to build their own personal brand, because I think it helps to build that know, like, and trust factor. And ultimately, at the end of the day, people are doing business with people. So really need to be able to relate to someone on that human level to make a difference. For me, what led to that was kind of like the background of starting my business was during college. My mom was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, glioblastoma. And so that sudden diagnosis made me realize, like, life is short. We don't have as much time as we think we do. We might as well pursue the dreams that we feel passionate about. And so I did. But one thing that I also did moving forward was that was very much part of my story, because of course everyone says have a why for starting your business. And that was part of mine. And so it was something that I was not only vocal about because of the work that I did, but also I kind of had to be with clients, because there, of course, came the time where I had to move things around when she passed and things like that. So being able to be raw and vulnerable, I think, really resonated with a lot of people, and people felt drawn to that story. And that's what led me to the opportunity to get asked to do a TED Talk on the challenge of change and be able to have these other opportunities since. I feel like over the past probably at least 5 years or so, there's been more openness from people to be more personal in their content. I think for a long time, there was this notion that you had to keep business strictly business and personal strictly personal. There was no crossover. But I think, especially in the past 5 years or even longer than that, there's been that more crossover and blurred line, so to say, of people being able to show more of who they are as a person and get to relate to people on that personal level.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Now as I was skimming your website, you've referred to Dash of Social as a marketing ecosystem partner. Now that sounds like it is a bigger scope than just the traditional social media shop. And how would you describe that, the scope of your agency in that context?
Totally. So, in addition to offering social media, we also offer blog content, email marketing, and then overall marketing strategy and consulting. But one of my favorite things to do with clients and kind of what makes me view us as like the integrated partner of that ecosystem is we work closely with the other partners that our clients bring in. So, clients really appreciate that I can work directly with their PR firm, or I can even like speak directly with their employees for features, or even their customers to do like customer showcases on social media. I really like to kind of remove that middle person back and forth that kind of tends to come with someone like hiring a person like myself. And so I really love to get into the nitty and gritty of my clients as if I almost was an employee for them, even though I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. Um, now, conceptually, I did find a blog that referenced the content marketing trifecta, and I like that term with the social, the blogs, and email. Now, how would you say that connecting those makes for an overall content strategy and makes it successful?
Absolutely. So I always say that you get the best results when you don't put all of your eggs in one basket, especially something like social media where you don't own fully your social media accounts. I mean, it can get hacked, it can get shut down, it can get taken away from you. You want to make sure that you're diversifying your marketing efforts. And that's where incorporating things like email marketing and having a blog come in. Ultimately, they all end up driving people from one channel to another, which is where that ecosystem terminology kind of comes in. But someone might join your email list because they read a blog post where you included a link to sign up for your newsletter or a link to your lead magnet that you're offering. But then someone might go from social media to your blog because you're promoting a blog post that you've written and published and are sharing on social media, and all these different ways to kind of loop people from one system to another, and ultimately kind of leading them through those different points of the funnel is what will help to again build that credibility with you, establish that thought leadership, and then when it comes time for them to hire someone like yourself, you're the one who's top of mind for them because you've been pushing them along through those different channels and through those different points.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Um, now, can you tell us a little bit about like a typical client engagement? Now, when you start, you're coming in cold. Maybe you don't have expertise in that business yet, that line of business. How do you get up to speed? How do you speak with the customer's voice, or how do you help them define that voice? What does that process look like?
Yeah, great question. So I am type A by nature. I feel like that is something that is a little bit obvious, but I really thrive in having like systems and processes. And so that's one of the things that I prioritize is having like a clear onboarding process or intake process when working with a new client. So that entails sending over an intake questionnaire to ask about 10 or 12 questions around the background of their business or company. Being able to get their answers from that, plus my additional research, really helps to give me a solid overview. Of course, also setting up multiple meetings with my different points of contact within that firms or company. So if it's the CEO or even if it's the head of marketing or whoever I'm speaking with, being able to really understand from their perspective what the company does and what they're looking to achieve through marketing is helpful. I also think it's really great to, of course, go through past content. So if they've already been pretty active on social media or with their blog posts or sending consistent newsletters, being able to look through all of what they've done in the past 3 months or so helps to give me a really good understanding of their voice, tone, values, relevant topics, and content that they might want to continue sharing and publishing. So that it really helps to understand things moving forward.
Okay.
One of my favorite things to do as well is ask them for industry resources, like if there's certain publications that they kind of tend to reference or prefer to read for getting their information. I think turning to those as well just helps to give a broader context of what it is that they're offering.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, obviously, this would be these are good steps to follow developing your own voice. And if you're writing on behalf of your own company, where do you find that you add the most value? Well, I guess let me rephrase. There's a lot of questions for small and medium-sized business owners into what should they do and what kind of expertise should they learn versus what should they outsource. And
Mm.
I have a marketing agency, you have a marketing agency, and so we kind of navigate that or thread the needle there. What kinds of businesses or skill sets lend more to outsourcing to a firm like yours or teaching themselves to do it?
Yeah, great question. So I say really like the majority of our clients hire us not because they don't know how to do marketing, it's because they don't have the time to do marketing. And
Mhm.
so what happens at the end of the day, even if they have already a marketing and communications team internally, it's that usually social specifically is kind of the one that gets kicked to the bottom of the to-do list when there's so many other things to make sure that gets done. Social media specifically is often the one that gets forgotten about, which is totally understandable, especially if you're a founder and you're wearing a million different hats. You're not really going to prioritize social media over those revenue generating activities. But it is really important to make sure that it does get done because people view social and even other organic content when they are potentially considering purchasing your product or buying your service or whatever it might be. And so having that active presence is crucial. And so I would say for any company who knows the power of having their organic content in a solid online presence, but finds themselves stuck without any time at all to make sure it happens, that would be a good indication that it might be time to seek a marketing agency to work with. On the other end, for companies who may want to do it themselves, I say if they have like a really solid team already in place who does have the resources or availability to take that on, totally go for it. If you already have someone in house who has the capability of doing it. Or I say it also truthfully comes down to budgeting. If you just don't have the budget right now to pay for an external source, then it may make more sense for you in the short term at least to manage it yourself and DIY it and do what you can until you end up getting to the point where you do have the funds to bring in an external partner.
Okay. Okay. Now that's excellent advice. Um, do you find that the businesses grow with you, or do they? I don't want to. I don't want to misconstrue this, but like, do they outgrow the need to outsource? Do they? What do you see as more common trajectory?
Yeah, I'd say I see both. And
Okay.
honestly, I have seen that before where clients
Oh,
get to the point where they're getting so big where they're like, you know what, we just need to hire someone full time who can
mhm.
handle all of that. And I always say, like, that is a great problem to have, where if you don't need me anymore because you're so big that you need that full time
Sure.
person to handle all of the different things. But I would say I kind of feel like what I'm seeing more, at least on the tech side, is that the tech startup side, I should say, is that a lot of these startups aren't always hiring for marketing specifically like in-house. They kind of tend to have like a handful of different contractors or freelancers that they're working with who all come together to form their marketing and communications team. So it tends to be a little bit of both, but I do love having clients who have been with us for several years now at this point because it's so gratifying and fulfilling to think about where their business or company was at when we first started and then see now a few years later where it is and be able to have that comparison.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Now, in another part of this formula that and the decision making that the businesses make is, should I have a human content creator, or should I do it with AI? And obviously, a human creator is going to produce higher quality content, more human sounding content, more engaging content. But AI can do it pretty fast and can do it in mass. What do you think about that? How do you see AI being a part of the content marketing process, and what recommendations do you have for business thinking about this?
Yeah, I feel like it's been growing, I feel like a lot over the past year and it'll only continue getting bigger. But the idea of having an AI agent who basically becomes like a clone of you, I think is only going to continue to grow. And I think with an AI agent, if you end up building one, you can end up really getting them to know like your voice, what your focus is, whatever it might be. And I think they can create content for you, but I always say to really go through it with a fine tooth comb and be able to like make those changes and check for like the emojis and similar words that are always used in any AI type of content. So it's not obvious that it's used for AI.
Mhm.
I think AI is okay if you need help with like content idea generation. I know that one thing a lot of people struggle with is just like not even knowing what to write. They sit down at their desk and they're like, I don't even know what to write or where to even begin. Being able to use something like AI to help generate those ideas of what's trending right now, what are people searching for in Google right now that I can write about that's relevant. Being able to help with sharing some topics to get started with, I think can really help to kick things off. But overall, I don't think anyone should fully lean on AI. I think if you're not using it at all, it might put you at a disadvantage because now there's just companies that are fully incorporating AI completely. And so I think it's important to use it, but to not use it as a crutch. I did read maybe a few months ago at this point a quote that I felt was really like resonating with me. And it was something along the lines of AI is meant to do the mundane work for creative people, not the creative work for mundane people. And I was like, that is the perfect way to phrase it. Use it to take care of those like tedious, mundane, annoying tasks that don't need to take your time, and then use your brain power and your actual time that you have left to focus on the creative stuff and being able to create something really great.
Right, and I love that quote. I'm gonna remember that. I heard another kind of twist on it, that it shouldn't replace our creative, because like, what are we here for if we can't enjoy or create art, or create, um, interesting thoughts, if we're here
Totally.
just to do just to click, 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 then that's not really living. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think I, especially in marketing, see AI being really helpful, not only for the research side, but also like the data interpretation side. Some other marketer taught this to me, and I was like, this is genius. But they recommended, like, for example, going into your Google Analytics, copying all the data that you're seeing there, pasting it into something like Chat GPT and saying, here's what my Google Analytics is telling me based on these numbers and this data, like what recommendations should I do moving forward with my blog content or any changes I should make to my pages on my website. And then you'll get from ChatGPT or another AI some recommendations. And something like that I think is great because it gives you really tactical advice and it's not more of that like creative task that we're focusing on, but being able to use something that you might personally not have knowledge in, I think is a really smart way to leverage it and be able to make some important changes moving forward.
that's awesome. Ashley, you are very quotable. I'm picking up on this, and I think you have a good way of like making things very succinct. And I think that bodes well for after this. I'm going to create a lot of short form snippets, and I think you've given me a lot of great content. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for the compliment.
But it's almost like like content creation like flows through you and part of your overall being. Now, tell me a little bit about your creative process. Like, um, what do you? I mean, I don't feel like I'm a super creative person. I tend towards, um, I can't remember which one's right or left brain, but I'm the other one, but there are people that are really good at coming up with ideas or combining ideas, adapting them for different formats. How do you sit down and think of new things?
Yeah, and I feel like this is something that I am continuously like trying to improve upon. But honestly, I feel like my Best creativity comes when I'm doing anything except working. I feel like when I'm sitting at my desk, like I alluded to earlier, for people who are sitting at their desk trying to force themselves to think of an idea, that's when I feel my least creative. When I'm out, like on a run, or even just like outside doing nothing, like showering, even like the simplest things, I feel like I just get these ideas that pop into my head. And I feel like it's when you give yourself that time to just relax and shut your brain off from the work mode that subconsciously these good ideas start to come to you. I also think it's good to consume other content. So, not necessarily consuming other content for your industry specifically, but just any type of content overall. I mean, I'm a avid reader. I've read at this point over 100 books in 2025. And so I feel
Oh,
like just reading fictional books that have absolutely nothing to do with my work help to kind of feel that creative side. I think also reading other people's writing can help to give you some ideas, or especially how they might structure things, or some topics they might incorporate. I think that can help to guide things. But I also think too, in addition to that, just having people that you can talk to. Like when it was just me in my company, I felt very tunnel visioned because it was just me who was thinking of all these ideas. But since then, I've built up a team, and I think having a great team who is also on the pulse with this type of stuff, like I can go to them and say, what are you seeing right now that we should be thinking about for this client? Or what new ideas do you have? And I think being able to bring in other talented people who have different perspectives as you can help with that creative process as well.
that's awesome. Well, so Ashley, I think you've given us a lot to think about, and I will be digesting a lot of what you've described. Um, if people would like to work with you, up their social media game or content creation game, where can they find you? What's the best site to find you on?
Absolutely. Feel free to go to dashofsocial.com, and then in the footer you'll be able to find my links to social media, but I am Dash of Social on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And you can also find me on LinkedIn under my name, Ashley Dibiase.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great chat. And like I said, I think we've all learned a lot, and maybe we will be more creative, and maybe we will just go straight to a very creative person like yourself.
Thank you so much, Reed. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to marketsurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's marketsurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.